Hey there folks, Aldershot here, and today we're going to do an early impression on Eden Star, developed by Flix Interactive and on sale on Steam's Early Access at the regular price of about $20 USD, alright? Now, this game being in Early Access, as I always mention in my early impression videos, by the time you watch this video, things could have very well been changed, updated, etc, etc. So I definitely recommend at least checking the Steam page of the game just to make sure that you're up to date with the latest features and all that kind of good stuff. So what is Eden Star anyways? Well, as you can see, it's kind of a open world survival crafting tower defense game. I guess that's the best way I can kind of put it. And as you can see, I am kind of gathering some resources. Normally I start these videos in the the menu screen, but because this is in early access, as we all know, it's not complete and not all the features or all the functions are included with the game quite yet. This is definitely an early build as far as it being on Steam anyways, and because of this game doesn't have a save function. Okay, that's definitely going to be like, that's definitely going to be the first thing that you guys need to understand about this game, is that the current version that I'm playing right now, the very early version that came out within the first week on Steam, it doesn't save. So, you know, it's every run through is going to be a little bit different, I guess. But I did read on the Steam page that the developers know about this, obviously. In fact, they were quite transparent and made it quite obvious to consumers who are interested in this game on the page. But it is their priority. It is going to be something that they will be working on in the near future, of course. I'm expecting to see a save function by the next update, hopefully, anyways. But before we restart getting into the game, I want to quickly go over the options. There's no extra modes or extra features to play. It's really just the main campaign currently. But let's take a look at what you'll get in options for your 20 bucks anyways. So the options screen is fairly lackluster, to be completely honest. Not much in the way of graphics customization, which is a bit unfortunate. But these things are kind of common in early access games. So hopefully they can, you know, beef up the graphics options in the near future. Alright, now I did mention this is a survival crafting tower defense game. The reason I'm saying this is because this game is advertised as a survival game. We'll talk a little bit more about that, of course. But it's also advertised as crafting and all that kind of stuff. And I say base defense because I find that's really, at least in this current version, the main incentive for the player to keep playing. During the night times, enemy mobs will come and hoard your base, which I got set up here, as you can see. And it's kind of random. They don't always come. Some nights they come, some nights they don't. And when they come, they usually come in droves. So you're gonna want to set up some base defense, you know, to fend off the enemy cretins, if you will, which we have set up here. And the reason that I have a game that's already preloaded is because I don't want you to watch me gather things for about an hour before I actually can show you anything. So that's why I've kind of played a little bit of it, just to get something to set up so I can show you guys. But this thing here, this is kind of your base. This is called the Eden Kit, and it's a very, very important piece in your survival, because during the nighttime, when you step outside the bubble, the air outside is actually toxic during the nighttime. So being outside the bubble during the nighttime will drain your shields, which you can see as the blue bar on the top center. And again, if this was nighttime, it's daytime now, but if it's nighttime, it will slowly drain. And once the shields drain, your health will drain, then you will die. Right? So you don't want that to happen. So during the nighttime, you're going to want to be in your base. You're going to want to be collecting simple materials that might be around your base, and probably craft some stuff, which we'll go over in just a second. But before we do that, I kind of want to show you the worlds, especially since it's daytime now. Now during the daytime, you're going to want to be exploring the world and kind of gathering materials. We gather enough trees. And as you already saw, when you gather stuff, this game being done in the Unreal 4 engine, it actually simulates breaking parts pretty well. The physics are done fairly well as well. Well. So that's always good. So you'll be wanting to gather these trees, as you've seen already, but you're going to want to be gathering minerals as well. Minerals is going to be key to making more complicated objects. Alright, kind of like this stuff here, this bridgemite here. This is actually a pretty common mineral, so we're not going to spend too much time gathering this stuff. The further you move on from your initial spawn point, where we were, the rarer materials that you'll find. Now, something about the map that I should definitely go over is that currently in this version, it is not procedurally generated. The world is consistent, as well as the resource placements are consistent as well. So no RNG as far as this current version. I don't know if the developers are going to be putting in some sort of RNG elements, but from my current experience, everything's been the same every time I play the game. Okay, here's some enemies, so I can show you a little bit of the combat. Now you have this, where you can flick the mob, and this is using the most simple tool that you already have, which is also doubles as resource gathering. I killed all the mobs, which is great. It's a very, very powerful move. But you can also blast them as well. Now, doing these things with your main weapon, I guess you can call it, will require energy. And you can refill the energy by collecting fauna leaves, you know, grass, tree leaves, ferns, etc., etc. You gather that stuff, that'll refill your energy bar. Alright. Now, there is guns in this. I have crafted some guns. I have a rifle, and I have a pistol. Just like that, right? I try not to use them too much because it does cost resources to create, and it does cost resources to re-ammo, of course. I always try to use the basic attack as much as possible because it's very, very easy to replenish that. Again, you need to refill your energy. All you have to do is just collect some leaves, essentially, right? So there we go. So we're kind of far into the world now, so we're reaching an area with ceramics, which is kind of cool. We'll use that to build some stuff. And as you can see, when you collect stuff from this game, it does break apart using some sort of physics system. Now, because of this, it's very, very satisfying watching, you know, the minerals and the trees break apart. Is actually done quite well. But sometimes it's not always consistent. Like some pieces, let's see if I can get one as an example. Like this piece here, okay, it actually broke. Sometimes they don't always break, right? And that's the consistency issue that I'm talking about. Right now, this game is actually being overly cooperative and breaking everything that I'm aiming at. Okay, like this rock here, it's not breaking, right? And I don't really know why. Sometimes it's not as consistent as I would like it. Hopefully they can work on that in the future. Again, this is early access, and for an early access, it does the job, you know. Again, this is quite satisfying to see all the minerals break. Even though it's not always consistent, I would say at least 80% consistent that will break as you would expect, right? But again, hopefully that 20% that I'm estimating will get fixed in the near future. Alright, so that's generally how you're going to gather materials, right? Just kind of explore the world, breaking apart rocks, breaking apart trees, and picking all the goodies out of it. Now, on the top middle, where the shield stat is, where I showed earlier, you might see nightfall in 3 minutes, 33 seconds, 32 seconds, 31 seconds, etc., etc. So that's kind of like your clock, right? And once it reaches 0, it becomes nighttime, the air becomes toxic, as I mentioned before, and you're going to want to rush back to your home base. That way you don't die from breathing in too much toxic air, and most importantly, so you can defend your base, because as you saw before, you know, you don't want the enemies kind of ruining your base, because that can happen, and that's never really a good thing. Now we still got 3 hours, so we're going to keep collecting some stuff. We're going to keep moving forward into the map, which, by the way, it looks pretty good. The game looks pretty high quality, I must say. You know, it does a pretty good job at the whole alien atmosphere of it all. You definitely get some interesting shapes because of the alien typography, or if you will, or geography maybe. But you can see some pretty crazy rock formations. You know, the trees are pretty alien looking. You got some floating, I don't know what you would call it, floating islands, I guess. But it looks very, very alien. It definitely sends, you know, definitely gives that feel that you're really not on Earth, right? And I kind of like exploring the world just to see what other crazy stuff I can find, although mostly I found so far is just rocks and trees. So hopefully maybe down the road in the development cycle of this game, maybe we can see some villages. That would be kind of cool, or at least some kind of maybe artifact of past civilizations. Add a little bit of mystery to the environment rather than just being 100% au naturel. But that's really just some suggestions. So, you know, even though the atmosphere does certainly have that alien characteristic, I still think a little bit more character put into the environments would definitely help. Again, as mentioned before, maybe some villages, or maybe some, you know, old artifacts from days gone by, or something along the lines of that. Or maybe I just haven't discovered it. And that's also a possibility. Anyways, we only have we only have a little bit over than an hour to get back home, so we're going to do that because we're kind of far away. So we have a compass on the very top middle, and let's see if we can find. There it is. That yellow dot, that's our home base. So we're going to follow that, and hopefully we can reach it in time. That way we can defend our base. That way we can not die due to toxic air, because that's never a good thing. So we're going to just make our way back home. And that's generally going to be the flow of the game. During the daytime, you're going to be out exploring, gathering, hopefully, useful materials. And as you can see, there's no fall damage as well. So you can kind of jump around and don't worry about falling to your death. It does make sense because I'll show you now. You are in a kind of advanced spacesuit, I guess. So, you know, it makes sense, I guess. But as I was saying, the flow of the game generally is, during the nighttime, you're going to want to be in your base, defending it, gathering simple materials that's around it, if possible, and staying alive. During the daytime, you're going to want to go out as far as possible, because that's where most of the rare materials are, and gathering as much as possible to bring it back home. So you start building some crazy contraptions. Like right now, we got a couple sentries set up, okay? And we got a little home base set up here. We got some walls and all that kind of good stuff. So we're well protected. I'm kind of hoping that we will be under attack, so I can show you. Oh, we are too. Okay, so we got some mobs coming our way. I'll show you a little bit of the gunplay. It's a pretty standard issue. What you expect, you know, iron sights and all that. But again, I like to conserve ammo if possible and use the basic attack, because it's actually kind of fun. We'll blast him. And if he's not dead, then we can flick him around. And that's really, really fun. So during the nighttime, this is what you're going to want to do. See, they already destroyed this part of the wall, so we already have some repairs, and we died. So maybe we should have used the gun. Okay, but that's okay. You know what? Now we can show you the intro of the game, because we're going to start over. And the intro of the game is actually pretty good. Actually, I like the way it starts. It looks pretty. Looks fancy. Alright. Just waiting for the game to load up. There we go. So we get an introduction to the crab creatures that just recently killed us, which is a bit unfortunate. Step out of our pod and we see all these crazy meteorite looking things. And that is our first Eden kit, if you will. No, we don't need a tutorial. There is an in-game tutorial to help you guys out, although admittedly the mechanics are actually pretty easy to understand. I find this game quite accessible. Didn't take me long to figure out what to do, especially if you play games like Minecraft, for example. So I think you guys can kind of see where I got the tower defense element, where you are defending your base during the nighttime. And here's the thing about this game too. This game kind of advertises as a survival game. We just picked up the Eden kit, by the way, which we'll place. I'll show you that now, actually. Actually, we have in our inventory right here. And you can actually rotate it by holding the LMB and just moving your mouse around. But this is fine. There we go. But as I was saying, we gotta collect our resources all over again because we died. As I was saying, This game kind of advertises itself as a survival game. Now, here's the thing. I was kind of expecting to come into this playing essentially a sci-fi DayZ game with some crafting and building elements. However, this is nothing like DayZ or H1Z1 or Stranded Deep or The Long Dark or any of those true, I guess you can call it quote-unquote true survival games, right? There's no thirst meter, there's no hunger meter, there's really not a lot of environmental dangers either besides falling off cliffs or staying out during the nighttime. Honestly, this game feels a lot more like Minecraft than it does DayZ, right? It's really about collecting resources and upgrading and protecting your eating kits every night and building stuff essentially. And to be honest, even Minecraft feels a little bit more survival than Eden Star, because in Minecraft there's at least a hunger bar. You don't need to eat in this game, you don't need to sleep, you don't need to drink. So as far as the survival aspect of this game, I think what the developers were really referencing in that they were saying survival game is the aspect of protecting your base, right? Survive, protecting your base, survive not getting killed by the mobs, etc, etc. But it's not really a survival game. Again, I would call this much more of a resource management or perhaps crafting game, with a bit of tower defense thrown in as well. So for those who are looking for a space DayZ, well, unfortunately, I don't think you're going to find it here. At least not in the current version that I'm playing. Okay, but if you're looking for perhaps a more mature sci-fi, higher fidelity Minecraft with some tower defense elements thrown in, then this game might meet your needs for that, because it actually does a pretty good job of doing those things that I just mentioned, right? Now, the only thing about this game currently is there's really not too much to build. There's only 2 guns to build. There's like the rifle and the pistol. And as far as basic materials and basic building blocks is concerned, there's only really foundations or blocks or walls, which by the way, blocks will give you more defense as they're a little bit harder to break through. Walls will give you much less defense. You know, these are the basic blocks I'm talking about. If you put down a foundation and you build on top of foundation, it will add additional defense as well. So that's the use of that. So I'll just quickly go over some of the stuff that you can build since I'm talking about it. You can also build auto turrets, which I would highly recommend building first, to be honest. And then you have to build bullets, you know. So you don't even look for bullets in this game. You know, you don't need to look for bullets, you don't need to look for health kits, you don't need to look for canned beans, right? Everything is completely crafted. Again, in this current version I'm playing, it might have changed by the time you watch this, who knows. But in this current version, everything's crafted. So again, that's why I would compare this much more to Minecraft than to DayZ. But as I was saying, there's really not a whole lot to build. You kind of just saw everything that you can build from me flipping through these menus. And to be completely honest, the enemy challenge isn't all that high. I know I just died to a bunch of enemies. I know that. I know, hypocrite, right? But to be fair, you know, in comparison to other survival games or even to Minecraft, it's really not that hard. The mobs can be handled mostly with just your basic attack. During really high concentrations of enemies, if you have a rifle or a pistol, you should be doing just as fine as well, especially if you have turrets set up as well, right? So you'll get to a point where you're not going to really know what else to do with this game other than building a big fancy house, right? That's really the only end game in this current version. Now I do realize that it's very, very early and a lot of features and all that kind of stuff is missing and still being in development and all that stuff, but do know that the game does feel a little shallow in this current build. I mean, don't get me wrong, the game is stable, it hasn't crashed on me, and it runs fairly consistently in frame rates, although sometimes when you break up these rocks or trees, the frame rates do kind of drop, so it could use some optimization in that aspect. But generally speaking, it does run quite well. It's quite stable. It has enough mechanics and enough features that I would say it feels playable, right? It still feels very, very playable. It's just that The question is, how long will it keep you playing because of its, you know, lack of things to craft, lack of objectives to do other than protecting your home base. So these are the questions that you have to ask yourself when getting into this game. It definitely shows a lot of promise. I think with more features, with more goals, with more options, I think this game definitely has a place. It's again, it's a pretty good looking game, you know, Unreal 4 and all that. And I like the way things break up. I like the way the crafting works, and I actually really like the tower defense aspect of this game. In fact, that's probably my favorite parts of this game, right? So the game is a little bit hard to recommend at the moment just because of the shallow quote-unquote end game of it. But at the same time, I'm not going to disregard it because, again, it's very, very playable. Even in this early build. It's just probably won't be keeping you playing for all that long. Couple that with the lack of save, which is definitely a huge issue, but luckily for us, the developer has recognized that as a huge issue and has mentioned that it is a priority. So we will probably see a save function pretty soon, which is good to know. But again, the lack of features, the lack of endgame, really makes it a little bit hard to recommend at its current stage, but it is playable, right? You're not going to get a broken product, and if you're just curious to the game, if it looks interesting to you, then go for it, just because I can at least say I'm not recommending a broken game to you, and certainly not that, right? It's just a little bit lacking in its feature department. But overall, it's a pretty fun game that I'm definitely looking forward to playing more of. I'm definitely looking forward to more updates. That's definitely for sure. And yeah, that's basically Eden Star. Definitely interesting. Keep an eye out for it. That's what I'll say about it. Keep an eye out for it. Anyways, folks, I appreciate you guys watching. And all that kind of good stuff. And if you enjoyed this, if you found this informative, let me know. You know, let me know. Show me some love. Let me know what you think of the game. Let me know if you played it yet. And if you have, let me know what you think of it currently. And, you know, like, share, fave, and comments, all that kind of stuff. That'll be super duper cool. And I will bring you more videos like this. I'll let you know if a game's good or not. And I'll hopefully be able to show you some interesting games that you might have missed along the way. Anyways, folks, thanks for watching. All the shoutouts.